So just to start out a little bit about myself, so when I was growing up, my life was basically perfect. Both my parents are awesome. I have a sister who I didn't like at the time, but I love now. I cheered, I danced, I did all that typical like happy kid stuff. But for me, it was different because my baseline emotion was actually sad. And for me, I never realized that this was something that most people did not feel. I thought that everyone was like, okay, I'm sad, but then I do these things to make me feel happy, and then you go back to being sad again. So I didn't realize that was abnormal. And I did have times where I was super happy, like when I finally scored my first goal after playing 6 years of soccer, and it was the only goal I ever scored, but it made me happy. I got to pick out my own kitten, which was super exciting, even if she was kind of evil in the end. But still, I would always go back to that sad baseline. And so when I was a kid, like I didn't understand this at all. I just thought, this is how it is. This is how everyone is. Everyone just like hides those feelings, and this is totally normal. But in middle school, when things changed for me, we had this assembly, and it was all about like eating disorders and other mental illnesses, mental health issues. And this was the first time anyone had ever talked to me about any mental health issues at all. So we had I remember it was a big deal because there were 3 big screens and they played different videos on the different screens. But anyways, there was this one video that this girl was talking about that she was doing self-harm, so she was cutting herself, and she was talking about it, and she said, what she said, it still resonates with me today, even though I was in 6th grade. She said that the only way she could suppress the pain that she felt on the inside was to inflict the physical pain on the outside, and that's why she was harming herself. And at that moment, I knew that something was wrong with me, that was not normal, because this is how I felt. While I was not doing self-harm, I was doing other things because I was trying to forget how I felt on the inside. So I'm a chronic overachiever, made it all the way to medical school, which, if you didn't know, you go to undergrad and then you go to medical school. So I'm actually 24, even though I kind of look like I could be a high schooler. But I've done a lot to get here. So, and I've always been like a people pleaser. I still am. As soon as the invitation came out for this, I was like, yes, I want to do it. And being in with Pulse and everything, and lying here and all of that. But the reason that I used to do those things is because for those little minutes that I would have, wow, someone gave me a gold star, or someone told me I was great, or I got a great grade, I would feel that little bit of happy, and I would feel normal, and I would forget this feeling that I had on the inside that I basically hated myself. And so I just kept, for my whole life, I was chasing those moments just over and over again, and that's really taxing on yourself, you guys are all really hard workers, so you know that working hard all the time, you need to take breaks. I never took a break because if I did, I would just fall into this deep depression that I couldn't get out of. So I just basically just kept working harder and overachieving and doing all of this stuff that I didn't need to do just so I could feel a little more normal like everyone else. And so after that assembly, I did what every 12-year-old girl would do who has problems with perfectionism. I was like, I'm gonna tell no one about this issue. It's gonna stay inside. I'll just fix it somehow, later down the line. Problem for later. And I'm not sure why I really felt this way, because that was really the first time anyone talked to me about mental illness or mental health in general. But it felt like, because it wasn't something that people could see that was wrong with me, it wasn't a tumor, it wasn't a skin condition, it wasn't an infection, it was something that was on the inside that I had to translate to others to get them to see what was wrong with me. So I just also felt like I didn't want my parents to know this, because I thought that they would blame themselves for me feeling this way, or other people would think I was just mentally weak and this wasn't actually a problem that I was having. And so, but then, so I was 12 at this time, that was, how many years ago? 12 years ago, so went, and there's no other way to describe it, it's true. It was these little blogs, and you could write things about, how you were feeling, and so, naturally, a lot of things on there ended up having to do with depression and self-harm and thoughts of suicide and anxiety and all of those things. So I started to realize that like other people did feel this way. And so then I started to look a little more into it, got off of Tumblr, and I started to understand it more as a disease, because I was basically just trying to figure out like, okay, what exactly is wrong with me? I have an idea, and how can I like fix it without having to tell anyone or really like do anything about it. Basically, I just wanted an easy fix that no one would ever know about and it would work really quickly. Obviously that does not exist if you didn't already know that. And so I just, again and again, I just kept chasing those moments. But that brings me to like my first point. So I have like 4 parts to this. My first point is that depression is not something that everyone has to some degree. The happiness you see on the faces of other people is not a reflection of how good they are pretending they don't hate themselves. Your feelings are valid and you should speak up when you're hurting. So part 2, this is more about high school. So high school is when things started to like go a little further downhill for me. You know, the end of the world, I found out that my 8th grade boyfriend cheated on me. So that was like, you know, we were gonna be together forever. So that was like a huge problem for me. So, you know, my 14-year-old self is like, my life is over. And so I kind of like, you know, I did what everyone would like to do. I blamed this like poor other 14-year-old who like is a good person. He just, you know, did dumb boy things. But it was much easier to blame him for how I was feeling than it was to accept that like my mental health was declining like faster than it ever had before. And so basically I made this plan, and so I made this plan my freshman year of high school because things were just so like difficult for me. I was like, I don't know how I can do this for the rest of my life, and I needed to have a plan where I knew that these feelings and this pain would end. So I made this really horrible plan that I hope none of you in this room are thinking about, but I made a suicide plan. I planned my senior year to commit suicide, so in my like 14-year-old brain, I thought that this would make it easier for everyone who loved me because they could just pretend I was off at college instead of dead. And so I held on to this plan, like clung to it for like the first 2 years of high school. Then I got into my junior year, and so this is when we get a little bit of a love story. So I met this boy. Went a lot better than the last one. He was super great. Like he was super sweet. He'd like do those things that you see on Twitter where people just like show up with flowers or chocolate, or they just buy your favorite things for you. So it was like really great, and like I loved him, and I think he loved me. But so we stayed together, and I just felt like he like came in and like rescued me from this like depression dragon that was like causing these problems in my life. And for the first time ever, I felt happy for like months at a time. And it was due to all of these nice things that he was doing for me, like buying me flowers, buying me gifts, bringing me chocolate, telling me I was pretty, telling me I was smart. But really, those were just kind of like gold stars. It was just like a rapid fire of them all coming from the same person. So as you should know by now, that's not how mental illness works. Someone loving you and doing nice things for you isn't going to fix the chemical imbalance in your brain. So a couple months into the relationship, depression started to like creep back in. And at this point, I felt that I could maybe just like let him in on my little secret a little bit. So I gave him like little bits of information. I kind of talked to him about it and how I was feeling, and he was great about it at first, even though we were in high school and our like any type of psychological knowledge that we had was from Google. And yeah, so he was great about it at first, and then, you know, seeing I'm like, okay, overachiever time, feel better about myself, I'm gonna be a molecular bio major because it sounds cool and I can't pick between bio and chem, so that's how I picked my major. I would not suggest just picking one with a cool name. Probably better off doing something you actually like. And so at this point, with all the stress of college and all the extra work I had to do, because I had to do all the extra work of trying to get into medical school along with like my rigorous coursework for my major and all of the extra things that I thought I had to do in college, like join every honor society there was, and like my graduation cords at college, there were like 15 of them. I was basically like this, like what it was, yeah. So don't be like me. If anything, don't do that. Just do the things that you like to do. But anyways, at this point, I started to feel anxiety. So I had this depression that made me just want to like lay in bed all day, not do anything, not move. And then I had this overwhelming feeling of like my heart was racing all the time. And I just felt like I'd walk into a room, people were staring at me and they were talking about me. And it started off a little slowly, and then it just kept getting worse and worse, to the point where my senior year, whenever I was in interview season for medical school, I couldn't even fall asleep at night because I'd lay there with the lights off and I would feel like there were bugs crawling on my skin because I was just like so nervous about everything. And still, I didn't tell anyone about this. I kept it on the inside. I kind of told that guy I was dating because we're still together at this point, but at this point, I was beyond help that a friend could give. I needed some like professional help, so he tried, but obviously it didn't work out. And so I basically, by the time I got to medical school, I was barely functioning. Like, I don't even know how I got there in the fall of 2017. And so at this point, I had the fake bugs crawling on my skin. When I would wake up in the morning, sometimes when I'd open my eyes, I'd see like big spider. Clearly I have like arachnophobia or something because everything's related to bugs. Not that scared of them anymore, but I'd see like a big spider right there on my pillow and I'd like scream and like fly out of my bed and turn the light on. Obviously it was not there because there's no giant tarantulas in Pennsylvania unless someone let their pet loose. But, and so also I was having like actual like intermittent panic attacks. Like I would lock myself. One time my college roommate found me crying in my closet. And so get to medical school. At this point, I have gained 50 pounds from when I went to college, so like freshman 15, but 50 pounds. I was miserable, like my clothes didn't fit me. I just wore like baggy sweatshirts and stuff all the time. And I'm only 5'1", I have heels on right now, so that's like, I look like kind of like a balloon version of me now. But, so that hurts people's self-esteem, and also like I was basically laying in bed all day eating cheese, and because eating made me feel a little bit better, and of course cheese is delicious. But anyways, at this point, by the time fall of medical school, I was still in that relationship, but at this point we hated each other. Like, I don't think either of us could name a single thing that we liked about the other person. It was just that we had been together for 6 years, and it was like so long that I think he was scared to leave me because he thought that I would kill myself, because he knew he was the only person that I ever talked to about how I was actually feeling, and I never would have left him, no matter what he would have done to me, because I saw him as this like Prince Charming who like came in and saved me from myself when I was 17, and so that's now brings me to my second lesson that I've learned. No one can save you from depression. You can't love away a mental illness just like you can't love away a cancer. So never stay with someone because you think they saved you despite what they tell you and what the rest of the world has told you. You never needed them. So part 3, I'll call this rock bottom. So what needed to happen a long time ago finally happened. He dumped me the week of my anatomy exam. How considerate. And so at this moment, I have never felt more alone than I felt that Sunday evening. My exam was on the Friday. So the first thought was, oh my God, I'm gonna fail this exam. The second thought was, oh my God, I've never been more alone in my entire life. I don't know who to talk to. And it's like 11 p.m. I'm like, well, maybe I could try to talk to my mom, but if I call her, she's gonna freak out, and I can't do that to her. I can't let her know that I've been feeling this way and how upset I am right now. So I was like, well, some of my new med school friends, they seem pretty cool. So I called one of them. I picked one that I was like, she's a nice girl, I'm gonna call her. So I called her and I just basically started talking through the sobs, obviously. And I just told her everything that I've been trying so hard to hide for a long time. Aside from the relationship, it was the first time that I said the words out loud, I have depression, I have anxiety, and I need help. And just finally being able to say that to someone that wasn't this ex-boyfriend was just so freeing to me. After I said it for the first time, I started telling the rest of my med school friends who were all super understanding about it, and they were all amazing, and I'm very thankful for them. But that week was the worst week of my entire life, and but after that, I had to tell my parents, obviously, because they knew that something was wrong. When I finally was able to tell them, I was like, they were just so shocked because they'd never seen me this upset. They never saw me like really cry about something, and they never saw me this like upset to the point where like I was like physically ill. And also they just didn't know that I had depression and anxiety this whole time because I had been hiding it from them. And I guess I did a really good job hiding it, which is not a good thing. And it had been going on for like, at this point I just let everything out. So I was just like, yeah, it's been this way for a really long time, like the last 10 years. And I just, when my mom was like trying to comfort me, she just like started tearing up because she was just so upset that she wasn't able to help me and she didn't know that I was hurting. So that brings me to my third lesson. Your ability to hide your mental illness from the world is not a sign of strength. You are hurting the people you love by torturing yourself like this. And so at this point, so after I confided in my med school friends, I finally was like, okay, I'm getting some professional help. So Penn State is really, really great to their students, and they have psychiatrists and a clinical psychologist. So I went to them, and that woman saved my life. Like, amazing, amazing people at Penn State. That's like the best part about the whole school. But anyways, healing takes time, regardless of what the problem is. And so I had a lot of healing to do from the last like 15 years of feeling this way. But finally, for the first time, despite feeling like my entire life had fallen apart, like I had this plan to like marry this guy and have a golden retriever and drive a Range Rover, and none of that was gonna happen now. But I felt super free, like I could do anything I wanted, and I didn't have to hold on to this secret anymore. And so I just felt so relieved that when the secret was finally out, like it was really scary at the time it happened, but like 5 minutes later I was like, wow, I feel like I can breathe again. And also the getting help from the psychiatrist also helped with the being able to breathe again. But so at this point, it's like, wow, look at all the things I can do when I'm not depressed and I'm not like so anxious that when I walk into a room, I wanna have a panic attack. So I basically was like, okay, I haven't worked out in 5 years, I'm gonna go to the gym. So I started going to the gym with some of my med school friends, and we did the accountability thing. We went at 9 p.m. every day, and I was like, you know, that guy I dated told me I could never run a half marathon when I told him I wanted to, so I'm gonna start running. And I am not a runner. I'm only 5'1", I have short legs. When I ran track in high school, during practice one time, the sprinting coach made me leave and go practice with the throwers because I was going too slow from the rest of the team. So yeah, so I was like definitely not much of an athlete. But I started running on the treadmill with my Netflix there to keep me motivated. It's true, it's the best way to learn how to run. So with all of the Criminal Minds episodes and all the hours spent at the gym and the running, this last year I ended up running 2 half marathons. On Sunday I ran a third. So, you know, if you're watching this video because you're looking at my life, I did it 3 times. And those 50 pounds are gone if you didn't get that from my description earlier. And I felt like I could look in the mirror and actually like what I saw for like the first time in years and years. And there was no pressure from anyone or any chemicals in my brain telling me like, you're not gonna be good enough, why bother? Why are you even bothering going into this room? Like, why are you wearing those jeans? They make you look fat. It was just me, and I felt so free, like for the first time in my life. And so I started doing everything that I loved. I scrubbed into surgery for the first time, and I fell in love with orthopedics. It's amazing. And I'm the first author on a paper in the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery, and I wasn't limited by my depression anymore. And you guys get the picture, I'm like very happy now. And anyways, because of me being so open about what I've been through, so many people who I have barely talked to or haven't talked to in years have reached out to me like via social media, because I'm also pretty active on there, and I talk about like mental illness and advocacy a bit. And people felt like because I was so open that they could talk to me about things. So I had friends from my medical school class texting me who like I didn't really know that well, and they would ask me questions about like, okay, how is the psychiatrist here? Like, I think I have a problem. And I was able to help so many people, get them on the path to where I am. it's honestly, it just makes everything that I went through worth it, knowing that I was able to help these people, and even people who I'm not close to, like acquaintances, like Facebook friends who haven't talked to in like 10 years, but they're still there seeing your feed. Like some of them have messaged me and been like, because of everything that you have said and posted, I made an appointment and I'm like talking to a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and that's honestly just, like this is why people go into medicine, to help others. So just being myself and sharing what I've gone through, that helping people, that's honestly like the best feeling in the world. And so basically now looking back, especially my 4 years in college, which were quite miserable if you didn't get that picture, I think like, what was I doing? Why was I trying to hide this condition that I had that I didn't ask for, that I didn't cause, I didn't do anything to cause it? Why was I trying to hide that from the world? Like, people don't do that with their other illnesses in general. Like if someone has cancer, they're not like, I'm not gonna tell anyone at all, I'm just gonna pretend I don't have cancer and hope it goes away. Usually they get treatment, and usually they tell at least someone. And I just, thinking about all of the pain that I put my friends and family through, knowing that I was suffering and that they had no idea, if I had just spoken up sooner, it would have just spared a lot of people a lot of pain, myself included. But that brings me to my final lesson and the kind of the takeaway message here. You are not hopeless, you are not worthless. There are a lot of people who dedicate their lives to helping people like you, so never give up on yourself. You are worth saving. Thank you.